Welcome, friends. Whether you're out on a walk, running errands, or relaxing at home, it's wonderful to connect with you. Joining us today is Jackie Miller. Now, Jackie is a high conflict divorce coach and post separation abuse strategist who helps women escape toxic entanglements, reclaim their energy, and win without playing the narcissist game. Jackie, welcome to Phoenix and Flame.
Thank you so much for having me, Dana. I'm super excited to be here.
This is fantastic. Now, listeners, Jackie and I ran across one another because we're both what we call speaker sisters from the Mic Drop Academy, Mic Drop Workshop, all the things. So that's how we got to know one another. And we just got talking and thinking, oh my gosh, we can make the best podcast ever. So
Mhm.
let me a little bit more. Now, Jackie, you say in your bio
Yeah.
that you're a survivor of a 16 and a half year emotionally, verbally, and financially abusive marriage, a grueling 2.5 year high conflict divorce,
Mhm.
and you bring both lived experience and expert strategy to the table. Oh my goodness, where we could start any one of those places, you have been through it.
Yeah.
I mean, what take us back in the day or wherever kind of whatever experience comes to mind, and we're just gonna kinda weave around and kinda go through that journey with you.
Sure. Absolutely. Well, as you said, I was in a 16 and a half year abusive marriage, and it was the frog in boiling water. It was the whirlwind, love bombing, super fast courtship. Immediately off to extravagant trips and all this stuff. And I was the best thing he'd ever met. And I was just couldn't believe that this was this person I met, this knight in shining armor came riding into my life and said all the right things and did all the right things. And we were married within 18 months and, then, now what I know, the devaluing stage started, and I was so confused, and I just couldn't believe what was happening. I mean, the death by a thousand paper cuts, I have stories for days, but it was like, the first time he got really, I'll say violent, didn't touch me, but that doesn't matter. It's still abuse. He started yelling at me. I was very pregnant, screaming, following me around the house with his finger in my face because I had signed for a letter in the mail when the mailman came. So if the mailman knocks at your door and asks you to sign for something, you sign it. Like, why wouldn't you?
Right.
And well, it was something from the IRS. I had no idea, because he was up to all kinds of shenanigans, which I had no idea, and that absolutely set him off, and I would just remember thinking, "Oh my god, who did I marry?" And I always say that I knew about after 2 years of marriage that I was in trouble, and it took me another 14 and a half to get the courage to leave, Dana.
Mm.
It just sorta escalated from there. The financial abuse, which I didn't it was he had the best reasons why my name shouldn't be on anything. He was an entrepreneur and in his credit score and all this stuff. He just had these really believable reasons as the years ticked by as to why financially, I should be nowhere near any of our accounts. And you believe this person because you love them and they were this amazing person that you met in the beginning. And they said and did all the right things. And he's the expert and he's the entrepreneur. And I'm just the dummy that works at a corporate company. I've never started my own company. So I don't know. I don't understand. I don't get it. Right.
Mm. Okay.
I'm not, yeah. So he's
Mhm.
the expert. So I was embarrassed for a long time to admit, Dana, that after 16 and a half years of marriage, nowhere in our financial life was there any evidence that we were even married or a couple. My name was nowhere, and it was all by design. I had 0 access to money. I had quit my job to stay home and raise our 2 daughters, which was amazing that I could do that, but I was absolutely financially trapped, and as the verbal abuse escalated, and as the isolation escalated, and as the put downs and the belittling me and the keeping me small, and I was in trouble for even going out for 2 hours to meet my best girlfriends for a glass of wine. I to the point where I just didn't even ask anymore or tell him I was gonna go out anymore. I just stopped going because it was easier. And I was a former shell of myself after 16 and a half years. And finally, when the infidelity got so blatant, And then he just started, his behavior got more and more bizarre. My girls were about 9 and 11 or 12, and I said, "I can't model this for my daughters. I can't let them
Mhm.
think that this is love. I can't let them think that this is how what their partner should treat them like." And I finally got up the courage to file for divorce. I didn't plan ahead. I didn't get help. I did it on an emotional whim because that was the only way I had the courage to do it, was what I, like, was finally in this moment where I'm like, call an attorney, call an attorney,
Go, do it now.
do it now." Yes, looking back, I wish that I had found a Jackie Miller. We didn't really exist though back then, but that's why I wanted to go out and be the person I wish that I had in my divorce. And so I knew when I would file, it would be hell because of the person he was and because the control he insisted on of over my life, and being exposed in the court system or having to show his cards on our financial um disclosures was something he did not want to happen. And so post separation, when I was actually finally, had filed and was eventually out from under the same roof as him, he picked up different weapons, which often abusers do. In fact, they always do. And that's the post separation abuse because it looks a little bit different. They don't
Mhm.
have the same control over you that they did before. So now you have the legal system. So it was constant hearings, constant, sorry about that, constant, um,
What?
filing motions and lies, blatant lies in the court system. And now I was a drunk. Now, after being the best mom in the world for 12 and a half years to my girls, now I was a drunk and I couldn't take care of, because I drink wine sometimes. I mean, just the blatant lies that you are so gripped with fear that might stick in the court system. They might
Mhm.
take your kids away because they're so willing to lie and play dirty. And you're not. It's not who you are. And
Mhm.
they find the most insanely unbelievable, unethical attorney that will do their bidding. And you're not, that's not you. You're not gonna fight that way. And you're like, "How is this gonna end? Like, where is this gonna go?" So, I remember finally moving into this little rundown rental house, out of my previous dream home, but it was okay because I was away from him. I didn't
Right.
care. But it was a complete departure from my former life, and I remember about year and a half in, sort of coming to, it was the middle of the summer, I remember, and it was late in the afternoon, and I sort of came out of this fog and looked around and realized I was literally wandering around my weed-filled backyard, Dana, and I looked around. I'm still in my pajamas in the late afternoon, no shower, haven't eaten, still in my slippers, and I just thought, "Oh, how did I get here? Like, I can't do this anymore. This is insanity." Like, I literally a zombie. I can't be here for my girls. I'm so wrapped up in this mess. I'm so wrapped up in the injustice of it all. He's winning. He completely cut me off financially. We have to go to court to get a penny. I can't pay my attorneys, and he's got the most expensive one in Los Angeles. He's living in his $11,000 a month rental that he moved into, and I'm barely surviving, wondering how I'm going to pay my rent next month. Like, how is this possible? How is this a
Mhm.
thing? And what I sort of came to was I had to really ask myself, Dana, Jackie, you've been through hard times before. Maybe not like this, but you have been through hard times before. What did you do? What did you do to survive? I love that saying, Dana. Have you ever heard the saying, congratulations, you've survived 100% of your worst days?
I've seen that before, and it's true.
I love that saying because it's true. Like in your darkest times, if somebody says that, it's like, well, you are. You're standing here. Somehow
Right?
you did it.
Oh my gosh. Well, and I'm so glad you're doing what you do, and because of what I do for a living, I know that survival is relative, because someone can say, "Well, I'm alive," but they might still have a lot of scarring. They might still have a lot of wounds from what they went through, that if they don't take the time and create the space and honor themselves to go and look at those and process that stuff and treat those wounds that they have sustained over all these years, then the likelihood that they're going to walk forward and kind of trip into another relationship that's very similar is very high. Because it's even though it's abusive, it's what's familiar to them.
Absolutely.
And
Yeah.
so it's just kind of like and they end up and I see people in my practice actually quite a bit that are I'm so glad you're here. Let's talk. Let's talk about this together. As you were explaining all of this, and I know I have listeners that are thinking, "Oh my gosh," and I have a cousin who went through something very similar, and her husband was a lawyer, and he reamed her out in the court system. He used the court system as a weapon,
Oh,
and
100.
I watched her go through years and years, and they had 6 children.
Oh,
And it was just and he used that, and because he was a lawyer, he kinda had the inside scoop, and he would and the court system allowed him to do that, and so
yes.
and I 'cause so I watched her go through that, and I've heard of other women, and I've come alongside women and also men. I have
Mhm.
a man that I know of right now that is sort of in a situation where it's flipped, where the woman's kinda charging in with a lot of
Yes. I've
ve
been there
very
plenty of
curious,
times. Absolutely.
controlling, kinda love bombing kinda thing. I said, "Dude, I'm so glad we're sitting here having a conversation."